Oh, well, hello there. Been a while, hadn't it, folks? Yeah, I know. You're like, hey, what are you doing? I know. What the who's it's and the what's it's and the, political and stuff. Anyway, all that don't matter. Point is, I'm back. I'm here. And this is with my boy, Jason. And we're doing what? We're doing the truth behind the magic. And today we're just going to kind of do a little bit of a video of what it's like to have a week experience in the college program and kind of how it plays out day to day, Monday to Sunday, how all that goes. Well, you want to start, Jason, like with how your week to week usually looked,
Yep, and
since
it
it's a
is
little more
definitely
recent
good to
than
have you
mine.
back on the show. It was
What do you think
it
it?
was pretty boring without you. I had to
Oh,
just sit through and hope that I had enough to talk about for 15 or 30 minutes, but it did some of the videos did well, so but yeah, anyway, I guess with all things are in the college program, nothing is one size fits all, and it's definitely the same with this situation, especially the costumes. Those definitely are not one size fits all. But with
mm-mm.
this will really come down to where you're working, I guess, the role you have, that sort of thing. But there definitely are some more generalized things that we can tell you about this. And the first I would say is that week one is obviously going to be very different from anything else. And we talked extensively about that. One of our first videos was the arrival week and everything that happens to that. We even did one about the like application process and all that. But yeah, the arrival week, the training week, which is usually the week right after, as well as the last week you are there, are pretty much going to be their own unique entities. And like I said, if you want to know more about the real details of the arrival and training week, we have those videos. But just to kind of sum it up, you move in, you do traditions, which is pretty much a shell of its former self, but it's still the traditions class. You have your training week, where obviously you're training, you do your assessment. You may have your first shift that week, but a lot of times it's like the third week. Technically, it's the week after when you'll have your first shift out of training. Um, and the last week you're there will be very different as well because um, usually they'll give you a few days between your move out date and your last shift. I've even seen people who get 4 or 5 days, so you pretty much have an entire week almost. And take advantage of that. Get your money's worth because you're still a cast member at that time. Use your discounts. Go eat at Boma Animal Kingdom Lodge specifically. Um,
Yeah.
go to the parks as many times as possible, and then you move out and you're done. They have the celebration thing as well, but usually that's not actually during your final week. It can be like months before, depending on when your move out date is. But I've never even actually gone to the program celebrations because one thing is that they will not give you time off for that. Like if you have a really good leader that is willing to work with you, you may be able to work your way out of that, and they might give you off for that day. But it's probably not going to happen. So a lot of people don't get to go to the celebrations. I never got to. Um, but yeah, I don't know if there's anything you want to say about those kind of different weeks, like the arrival week, last week, anything like that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely arrival week is definitely like you hit the ground running and ain't like, oh well, it takes time. No, you're put right into the thick of it. And you start out, you learn where you're gonna work, which park, which role you got, where you can get your costume, what time to arrive there, when your shift starts, all that kind of stuff. And those first couple of weeks are definitely you figuring out how you're gonna take care of everything. If you want to have a social life, if you want to work, if you want to be able to, really explore Disney, there's a way to do it. It can be done, but you just have to figure out how to manage all of that and stay on top of it. definitely those last few weeks. For some people, it's pretty emotional just because they love Disney so much. No matter what they've got going on, Disney overall, they still get pretty emotional. If nothing else, just for the friends that you made with the program, because they, once they go, they go. They usually don't see them again for sometimes for the rest of their life. Sometimes it's a long time, like a couple of years. So definitely enjoy those connections while you can, and try to meet up with it. If you can, try to meet up as much as possible because it's good to have those connections because it's a different perspective, different person, different personalities, all that, and it's good to catch up. And that's how me and that's how me and Jason are doing it. So yeah, I mean that's definitely a great way to be involved in that. But yeah, that last week, usually that's when you really want to spend time going to the parks, as Jason said, definitely making sure you're exploring as much as you can. If there's one ride you haven't been on yet, sorry, yet. Oh man, we got the cough. So yeah, I'm getting choked up about it myself. But yeah, definitely that last ride you maybe didn't get to go on because it was so busy. Go because there's no guarantee you coming back. Whether school, your life's progressing, something's going on outside of Disney, and this may be the last time you ever get to go and experience this, especially for free. So that's my recommendation. And then it's kind of sad that last day when you got everything packed up in your room, you look around your room one more time, like, man, I was here for either 6 months or 8 months or maybe even a whole year, but now it's over, and it's kind of like the ending of Goodfellas. It's like, and now it's all over. That's kind of how you feel after the end of it, and you definitely can reminisce because some wild stuff happens during the course of those weeks, however long you're with the program. But yeah, that's kind of my insight on it.
Yeah, that's all great stuff, and it really does feel like, wow, it's actually over. You might feel good about it, you might feel bad about it, depending on the situation you were in, but it definitely is like a heavy situation when it all ends because it's all over. Uh, and something you mentioned that made me think of something that we've talked about on here before is that a lot of the times, and I know this is kind of skipping maybe towards the end of the topic of this video, but it fits in here. But a lot of the times during the end of your program, they'll start tapering off your hours a little bit, or at least giving you like more desirable shifts. Obviously, that comes down to your location a lot. It comes down to how long you've been there, if there are new college program people there. Because when I was in quick service, especially, I started getting like really good shifts at the end of my program, probably like the last 2 months. So I'd already been there 5 months. And there were
Hmm.
a lot of newer people that they started giving the closing shifts to. So I was getting a lot of the midday, like there it would have been like 3 to 10, that kind of thing. You didn't have to close anything. You just clocked out and left the
Right.
building. Elvis has left the building, but it really
Right.
those were the best times there in quick service. Um, but yeah, I guess kind of to just get into what you can generally expect. Hours can vary a lot, and I've had it vary substantially each time I've done the program. The hours per week are typically going to be like 30 to 50 hours or so. It really can vary heavily depending on how many people work at your location, that sort of thing. It
Mhm.
can technically be lower or higher. I believe the lowest they can schedule you is 24. If someone watching this knows that and it's different, then you can correct me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the lowest. Oh, go ahead, because I.
I was just about to say, yeah, I think my actual last week of working, I think it was only like 15. I mean, it wasn't many. It was like a couple, 2 5-hour shifts, and I think a 3-hour shift and a 2-hour shift, and then that was it. So, yeah, definitely like that could be the lowest, but the highest you correct me if I'm wrong, it could, I think it was like 80 or 85. It was pretty high up
Wow.
there. Yeah, I mean, and don't let
Yeah,
them
they
fool
can
you
get
either,
crazy
where
with
it's
it.
like, yeah, because they'll do some stuff where you get that first day off, you work a week, then your new week starts, and then you get another another day off. Whether you're good at math or not, that's anywhere from 10 to 13 days in a row. I mean, straight. So good luck with that. Um, it's definitely a toll on the body for sure and the mind. So best to keep that kind of stuff going. But yeah, I just wanted to, add that in there for Jason just so he had a little more info about how much or little times they can
Right.
schedule you for.
Yeah, that's great information. And the last week might be kind of different because I do think that last week they don't have to schedule you 24 hours. I don't even think they actually have to schedule you enough to cover your rent because my second program, I got a call or maybe it was an email like a week after I left, and they're like, "You actually owe us $100 because you didn't cover your rent the last week." So
Hmm.
your last week you may only work one day. I mean, it's possible, but yeah, it can go way up there in the hour count. The most I worked a week was probably 60 hours when I was in attractions. Because it was probably like 6 8-hour shifts and then one 12-hour shift or something like that, working 7 days. Well, actually, they do have to give you at least one day off a week, so I shouldn't say it was all technically in one week, but you sometimes will work many days in a row because as long as they give you one day off that week, it technically counts. So you could
Hmm.
get Monday off, then work the entire week and not get a day off until the next Sunday. So it could be like 12, 13 days or whatever. I think the longest I did was 11. I did 11 a couple times. I did 9 a couple times. But yeah, they will try to get every hour out of you possible, which makes no sense because they have to pay you more for overtime. So instead of just hiring the adequate amount of people, they'll make you work extra and pay you overtime. I don't understand it at all, but yeah, and another thing, I have some notes here. That's why I'm kind of looking away at just a few bullet points. Something I had on here was that you can't give away a shift if it puts you below that 24 hours. And you also can't pick up a shift, which honestly, don't pick up shifts. If you are on program, don't even think about it. There are some people that are just straight up workaholics. I know some of the
Hmm.
full timers actually need the hours really bad and everything, but don't pick up shifts. Go to a park, go to Universal, do something. But yeah, there are limits that they won't let you pick up or give away shifts. Um, and let's see what I have here. Oh yeah, another thing. Typically you will have 2 days off a week. Some roles you will only get one day depending on the situation. When I was attractions, I had one day off a week except for my arrival week. That was the only time. But I would say, just as a generalization, plan for having 2 days off a week. Because most of the time you will have that. So when you're planning in advance for the program, I would just say assume that you're going to have 2 days off a week. I don't know if you had anything to add to any of that.
I was gonna say, yeah, and within those 2 days or one day, if you're just getting one day a week, it can still be done. But it's like as soon as you wake up, I mean, I know not a lot of people are morning people. Definitely, just like if you need to get groceries, go ahead. Don't wait till like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon to get them because trust me, as soon as you're done with that, guess what? You gotta go right back to work, and you really didn't do anything. So my recommendation is, yeah, as soon as you get that done as early as possible, so then you can just hit the parks immediately, whether that be Universal, which definitely got to check out the new Universal setup there. It's opening this summer. If anybody is doing a college program during that time, they're lucky. They should do it. So definitely that. And then, yeah, just hitting up all the Disney parks you can. There were sometimes I'd hit up 2 parks a day just because, not because I'm Disney obsessed, but just because the sheer fact of I'm definitely getting my quote unquote money's worth, even though I'm not paying, but it was still good to experience all that within that time frame. So by the next day, it's like, I'm not just getting a tiny break and going right back into it, and I didn't really do anything, or I feel like I didn't do anything. So just something to keep in mind. Mhm.
Yeah, I typically would go to at least 2 parks a day. Um, Not even really just because I had to or anything, or I needed to. It's just because typically I would go into a park, do like the few things that I really wanted to do in there, and then go somewhere else. And honestly, the park hopping is kind of like a part of the experience, especially if you're taking the monorail between Magic Kingdom and Epcot. That's quite a trek. It's a pretty interesting experience going back and forth. The Skyliner is the best of all, honestly, I think. When it comes to Disney transportation, that is an attraction in and of itself. Um, but yeah, definitely take advantage of your days off because that I know that's what a lot of people are there for is to go to the parks for free, which is definitely a huge perk of it. Um, but yeah, you don't have to rope drop the parks. You know, when you go as a guest on a vacation, you're gonna want to do that. But honestly, for your own sanity and health, I would not rope drop the parks when you are a cast member.
Yeah,
Show up at least a few hours after they open, and hardly
yeah,
anyone is actually entering the park at that time. So
right.
it's great.
I would I I would say even do that, or if you want to catch like the night show, definitely go like a few hours before that time. So then that way you get to see some of the park, and then right when the fireworks show is about to start, you're right there. You're right in prime view of seeing that and being a part of that and the other nighttime activities the park or the resorts surrounding the park might offer. So that's to keep in mind as well. The best times, honestly, are during that time and also during the holidays too, especially at night, because those hotels and resorts around the parks, especially Magic Kingdom, all kinds of activities going on. They got people singing, they got people playing instruments. They might be handing out cookies, just might. It's not guaranteed, but stuff like that's definitely going on. Um, during that time frame. So yeah, definitely if you can do it during the holidays, that's one of the perks. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and definitely make an effort to go visit the resorts. I know we've talked about that in multiple videos, but there's so much that goes on. I mean, I almost loved spending time at the resorts as much, if not more, than the parks. I still do when I go down there. That's a lot of what I do, and it's free. I mean, obviously eating and stuff is not, but and yeah, definitely don't be afraid to leave the parks and go eat at a resort or something, especially at Magic Kingdom. Get on the resort monorail, go to Captain Cook's at the Polynesian, come back. I mean, it'll only take you like an hour to do all that and be back in the park, so you're not really losing out on anything. And if you want to get a Dole Whip in a place that's not busy, just go to I think it's called Pineapple Lanai, right next to Captain Cook's at the Polynesian. They don't serve some of like the more specialty options, but if you just want one, go there. It's not really busy there ever. Um, but yeah, the resorts are a big part of really enjoying. I mean, I would say try to go to a new one every week if possible, at least one new one. Especially the Epcot resort area, you can go to 5 resorts right there and walk
Right.
between Hollywood Studios and Epcot. That's a long walk though. That's a little bit
Woo.
different than walking from the Contemporary to Magic Kingdom. It's like a mile and a half or 2 miles or something like that. But
Right.
that's my
I
favorite
mean,
walk on property though, when I'm willing to do it.
right. I mean, for those wondering, like, will you stay in shape during this program? Yeah, you'll be doing a lot of walking. This ain't no, oh, they get catered everywhere. You walking, and you walking a lot.
Yeah,
So
it's
there
like
is
Fats
that.
Domino said, I'm walking every day.
There
Like
you go.
you will be
Walking,
doing
right?
that
Exactly.
every
Like
day.
Yeah, like literally every day. And, especially, it's funny, especially when your family comes, your friends come, and they've never done Disney before, and you're just fast tracking Epcot, and they're like, oh, slow down, will you? I can't keep up or something. And you're like, come on, y'all, you're taking forever. And, you're just trotting along because you're used to walking that much. So definitely keep that in mind also. And then with like the resorts, cabin cooks definitely get the nachos if they still have them. Definitely good. But also, just a pro tip: that's the best way to avoid, like, if you don't bring a car, don't feel bad because right there you got a bus that's going to drop you off at the resort. You got the monorail that's going to take you around to the other resorts, like at Magic Kingdom, for example, and they can hop right back on that bus and go home. You don't have to worry about traffic or anything like that, or getting your car out during after the fireworks show because you got a bus. So, a little pro tip like that and stuff to keep in mind as you do explore during your time off.
Yeah, I think it was our housing overview video when we talked a lot about how you can still have a great experience without having a car. You definitely do not have to have one. And if it's your first time in Orlando, first time down there, I would probably suggest not even bringing one if it's your first program. Well, I wouldn't suggest either way, honestly, because I do like being able to go get groceries. That's a big thing when you're on the bus. That can be tough. Um, Although they do actually have a Target that's in walking distance now, so that makes it a little bit easier. It's kind of far away, like probably half a mile, but you can go there. Back in the day at Vista Way, it was a Walgreens. You could go get some spoiled milk, off-brand chips. No, they actually had some decent stuff there, but I remember I stopped buying milk there because one of them went bad before the expiration date. So I stopped doing my Walgreens milk runs. But that's another thing. I know Blaze mentioned this a little bit earlier, but plan out your groceries each week. You probably will have to go once a week, especially if you're on the bus, because you can't haul a ton of stuff out of there on the bus. So you probably will have to go weekly. The reason I went to Walgreens is because I would buy jugs of water there, because that was something I was not carrying back on the bus. But yeah, try to go before a shift if you can, because if you do it on your off day, you're just going to feel like, wow, I wasted 2 hours of my off day getting groceries. But I know that's not a possibility for everyone. But if you can, try to tie it in with a working day.
Yeah, it's true. That is definitely another way to do it. Like if your shift doesn't get off, you can either do it after your shift or before your shift. It's kind of risky, but it's still possible. Another thing I would add with that CVS, I remember the spoiled milk, wasn't it like, I think it was a week before, 2 weeks before it actually went bad, and it just after 3 days it was just instantly bad. So I think that was probably a refrigerator problem at Walgreens, and they just didn't realize it. So there's that. Another thing I would say is if you if you're going to that CVS, also be careful because there's a liquor store there too, and it's open till like 2 in the morning. So if you're 21, it's okay. If you're not 21, don't do it because wow, yeah, and it can get expensive. Remember, it is Florida. I mean, it ain't like nowhere else, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, I'm sure that place made a killing off the college program people, because with the way some of the people are in the program, they were probably hitting that place up almost nightly. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I guess the last thing that I have here would just kind of be a rapid fire of my experience in the three roles that I have done, which are very different from each other. So it's a pretty good overview of different scenarios that you can expect. So 2019 in quick service, I was working 5 days a week, pretty much every week. There may have been one or two times where I worked 6 days. It would have been during one of those like 11-day stretches. Um, 30 to 35 hours a week. Usually it was 5, 6 hour shifts. You might have 2 or 3 7 hours thrown in there. And that was like a really good schedule. I didn't make a lot of money, but housing was much cheaper back then, so you could make it with 6 hour shifts. Attractions after that was a complete 180 from that. It was 6 days a week. Pretty much every shift was 8.5 hours. Usually you'd have one 12-hour shift a week. So I was working a lot then, and I was making money too. I made as much in 3 months during that program as I did in 7 months on the previous program. And Bell Services was my favorite of all, but it's because I went down with some money, which if you can, definitely do that. Because I was only working 4 days a week. If they scheduled me 5, I would give away the fifth one because it was so easy in that position. 8.5 hour shifts, so I was working 32 hours, so it was still a reasonable amount. But yeah, I was not making a ton of money on that program. I will say that. I think I actually lost money because I paid $600 or $700 for a universal pass, bought some nicer pieces of merchandise like a lightsaber, a wand, universal. Yeah, I wasn't being very conservative with the money on that program, but yeah, I guess that's just really to show you that it can be pretty wide, the variation between roles.
Right. And I would just say, yeah, definitely, it definitely varies depending on your role and position and everything. But I would also say, if you're all about partying, which I'm not saying everybody is, but if you do it on the weekend. Don't do it. Well, I mean, Disney set it up where you get Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Let me tell you, I did it once. Nothing going on. It felt so awkward on a Wednesday night, being at some bar slash restaurant because it was really a restaurant. It turns into a bar at night apparently, and no, definitely not it. Like people make fun about Kansas, but trust me, there's more action going on in Kansas the weekend than there were on those party buses Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So definitely, if you're gonna party, do it on the weekend because it's a lot better then for sure. Because and if possible, if you do have a car or have a buddy that has a car, say, hey, maybe I give you gas. We take a day trip to Miami on our days off. Stuff like that. Like, you can actually see Florida too. You don't just have to do stuff within Disney. You can actually, if you've never been to Florida, I mean, it's big, but it's not too big. So yeah, you can go to some major cities in decent time. So you can go to Tampa, you can go to Jacksonville, you can go to Miami, and still make quite a bit of it, really. And it's all the time if you do go, especially Miami.
Yeah, definitely make an effort to do things outside of Disney, especially if you have like a 6 month program or more. If you have a 3 month program, if you're an international person, some of them only have 2 months. I probably would just stick to Disney pretty much exclusively. But definitely get a universal pass if you're there for 6 months. Uh, Go to St. Augustine, Florida, if you can. That's a really cool place. Like you said, Miami, Tampa, Cocoa Beach. Definitely try to factor that into some of your weeks down there. Um, but yeah, other than that, I think that's pretty much all I have. I don't know if you have any kind of final thoughts.
No, I mean that's it, brother man. I feel pretty good. I think we covered it pretty well. So yeah, folks, like I say, I'm so happy to be back on the show. A lot of stuff went on, but again, happy to be back. Happy to be with you guys. Happy to be doing this, giving you insight. Trying to make you laugh and make your day. If we did, awesome. That's what we're doing it for, if nothing else. So until next time, guys, just keep it real, keep it safe, keep it magic.